6-year-old Lily Carter stood beside her father on the Family Feud stage, swinging her tiny legs because they didn't reach the floor, until she leaned toward Steve Harvey and whispered 4 words that made him stop in the middle of a joke. "Daddy misses Mommy too." Steve froze. The smile disappeared from his face. Lily's father, Daniel, had been raising her alone for 11 months after his wife died from leukemia at just 34 years old. Lily had stopped saying her mother's name because every time she did, her father cried when he thought she wasn't looking. That morning, Lily had asked Daniel if Mommy could see them on television. He told her he believed she could. When Lily whispered those 4 words to Steve, Steve looked at the little girl, then at her father, slowly put his cards on the podium and wiped his eyes. Then he walked over and knelt beside her. It was March 14, 2026, inside the Family Feud studio in Atlanta. The audience was loud, the lights were bright, the families were laughing. But Lily Carter wasn't paying attention to any of it. She was 6 years old. Her pink shoes didn't touch the floor. She kept swinging her feet beneath the podium and holding the sleeve of her father's shirt. Daniel Carter noticed. "You okay, sweetheart?" Lily nodded. "Yeah." Then she looked toward Steve. She had seen him on television before. Her mother used to watch Family Feud while making dinner. That memory was one of the few things Lily could still remember clearly. Her mother standing in the kitchen, a wooden spoon in her hand. Steve Harvey laughing from the television. Lily sitting on the floor with crayons, her mother laughing too. That was before the hospital, before the medicines, before the empty chair at the kitchen table. Before Daniel learned how quiet a house could become. Steve walked onto the stage. The audience cheered. He joked with Daniel's family. He teased Lily because she was the youngest contestant. "You gonna help your daddy win today?" Lily nodded seriously. "I know all the answers." Steve laughed. "Oh really? Yes. What is the #1 thing people eat for breakfast?" Lily answered immediately. "Pancakes." The audience laughed. Steve pointed at her. "You might actually know what you're doing." Lily smiled. Daniel smiled too. For a few minutes everything felt normal, but Lily had been carrying something all morning. 4 words. She had practiced them in the hotel room. She had whispered them in the car. She had almost said them backstage. But every time, she stopped. Because they were not really for Steve. They were for her father. Daniel had been 35 when his wife Emma became sick. Emma was 34. She had been a kindergarten teacher for 9 years. She loved yellow flowers. She sang badly when she cooked. She kept every birthday card Lily ever gave her. And she could make Lily laugh by pretending that broccoli was a tiny green tree. Then Emma started getting tired. At first she blamed work. Then she started getting bruises. Then came the blood tests. Then the hospital. Then the diagnosis. Acute leukemia. The doctors began treatment immediately. Daniel stayed beside her. He slept in a chair. He ate vending machine crackers. He went home only to shower and change clothes. Lily was 5. She didn't understand why Mommy wasn't coming home. Daniel tried to explain. "Mommy is sick." "How sick?" "Very sick." "Will she get better?" Daniel looked at his daughter. Yes, he didn't know if that was true. But he couldn't say anything else. Emma fought for 7 months. 7 months of chemotherapy, 7 months of hospital rooms, 7 months of hope followed by bad news followed by hope again. Then one Thursday morning Daniel received a call. He was at work. The hospital wanted him to come immediately. He drove too fast. He ran through the hospital doors. Emma was awake. She was very weak. She looked at him. "Where's Lily at school?" Emma smiled. Good. Daniel sat beside her. She took his hand. Don't let her forget me. Daniel shook his head. She won't. Emma squeezed his hand. Promise? I promise. Those were the last complete words they spoke to each other. Emma died 2 days later. She was 34. Daniel told Lily he didn't know how. He sat on the edge of her bed. Lily was holding her stuffed rabbit. Daddy? Daniel started crying. Lily looked at him. Is Mommy coming home? Daniel shook his head. Lily waited. Then she asked, Ever? Daniel pulled her into his arms. No, baby, Lily didn't cry at first. She just stared at him. Then she whispered, I want Mommy. Daniel held her tighter. That night, Lily slept beside him. She didn't want to sleep alone. Neither did he. The months that followed were hard. Daniel returned to work. He packed Lily's lunches. He learned how to braid her hair from an online video. He went to parent meetings. He learned which stuffed animal she needed when she was scared. He learned how to answer questions he didn't know how to answer. And he learned how to cry silently, because Lily was watching. One evening, almost 5 months after Emma's death, Lily found Daniel sitting alone at the kitchen table. There was an old photograph in front of him. It showed Emma holding Lily as a baby. Lily walked over. Daddy? Daniel quickly wiped his face. Yeah, are you okay? He smiled. I'm fine. Lily looked at the photograph. Do you miss Mommy? Daniel stopped. He wanted to say no. He wanted to protect her. Instead, he nodded. Every day. Lily climbed into his lap. Then she whispered, I miss her too. Daniel held her. Neither spoke. That became their secret. They missed Emma together, but they rarely said her name, because saying it hurt. Then Daniel's sister suggested they apply for Family Feud. Daniel laughed. We don't need to be on television. His sister smiled. Maybe Lily does. Daniel looked at his daughter. Lily was watching Family Feud. Steve was making a contestant laugh. Lily smiled. I want to meet Steve. So Daniel applied. They were selected. When Lily found out, she jumped on the couch. Mommy would love this. Daniel froze. Lily looked at him. Right? Daniel smiled. Yeah, Mommy would laugh. Daniel nodded. She would. That was why they came. Not for the prize, not for television, for one family memory. A memory that didn't involve a hospital. A memory where Lily could laugh. A memory Daniel hoped she would keep. The morning of the taping, Lily woke up before everyone. She put on her favorite pink dress. She brushed her hair. Then she stood in front of the mirror. She whispered, Mommy, I'm going on TV. Daniel heard her. He stood in the doorway. He didn't say anything. Lily turned around. Daddy? Yeah? Do you think Mommy can see me? Daniel swallowed. I think she can. Lily smiled. Good, then she took his hand. At the studio, Lily was excited. She watched the cameras, she watched the audience, she watched Steve. But every few minutes she looked at Daniel, because she knew something adults thought she didn't know. Her father missed her mother. She knew. And she had decided that Steve needed to know too. The first round began. Daniel's family played well. Lily shouted answers from the side. Steve laughed. Lily, you're not even supposed to be answering. She covered her mouth. Sorry, the audience laughed. Daniel smiled. Then Steve came closer. You ready for the next one? Lily nodded. Steve bent slightly toward her. What's your name? Lily what? Carter. Well, Lily Carter, you look like you're taking this very seriously. She nodded. I am. Steve laughed. Why? Lily looked at her father. Then she looked back at Steve. She leaned closer. Steve leaned down, and Lily whispered, Daddy misses Mommy too. Steve froze. The studio fell completely silent. For a second, Steve didn't move. He looked at Lily, then at Daniel. Daniel's face changed instantly. He knew. Lily had said it. The secret was out. Steve slowly stood upright. His smile was gone. He placed his cards on the podium. Then he took off his glasses. He looked down. His shoulders moved once, then again. He turned away from the cameras. The audience didn't know what to do. No one clapped. No one laughed. Steve wiped his eyes. Then he walked toward Lily. He crouched down. "Your mommy?" Lily nodded. "She died." Steve closed his eyes. "How long ago?" 11 months. Steve looked toward Daniel. Daniel nodded. Steve whispered, "I understand." Lily looked at him. "Do you miss somebody too?" Steve's face broke. He pressed his lips together. He nodded. "Yeah," Lily asked. "Who?" Steve looked down. Then he smiled sadly. "A lot of people." Lily reached for his hand. Steve took it. The audience began crying. Steve squeezed her tiny hand. Then he said 5 words. "You don't have to hide." Lily looked at him. Daniel covered his face. The studio fell completely silent. Steve stood. He looked at Daniel. "You've been doing this alone?" Daniel shook his head. "My family helps." Steve nodded. "I mean the grief." Daniel looked down. "Yes." Steve took a breath. Man, he walked several steps away from the podium. Then he turned back. "Stop the game." A producer immediately spoke through the headset. Steve raised his hand. "No," he pointed toward the podium. "We're stopping." The audience went silent. Steve looked at Daniel. "This little girl just said something that took me back to every child I've ever seen trying to be strong for an adult." Daniel's eyes filled. Steve continued, "She's 6. He pointed gently toward Lily. "She shouldn't have to protect you from your grief." Daniel nodded. Steve looked toward Lily. "And you shouldn't have to protect your daddy either." Lily's lower lip trembled. Steve knelt again. "You can miss your mommy." Lily nodded. "You can talk about her." Another nod. "You can say her name." Lily whispered, "Emma." Daniel started crying. Steve looked at him. "There she is." Daniel covered his mouth. Steve smiled. "That's her name." He looked at the audience. "Emma." The audience repeated it softly. "Emma." The studio fell completely silent. Then Steve reached into his jacket and took out his phone. He looked toward the producer. "I need to make a call." He dialed. "Robert?" Pause. "I'm with a family that lost their mother." He looked at Daniel. "I want $25,000 put aside for the—" Daniel immediately shook his head. "Steve, please." Steve covered the phone. "Let me do this." He returned to the call. "And I want a grief counselor for the little girl and her father, somebody who specializes in children." He listened. Today, he ended the call. The audience applauded. Steve raised his hand. "That's not charity." He looked at Daniel. "That's a bridge." Then he turned toward the opposing family. He explained what had happened. The other family's captain, Maria, walked toward Lily. She knelt down. "I'm sorry about your mommy." Lily nodded. Maria hugged her. Then she stood. She looked at Steve. "If Lily's family doesn't want to play, we don't want to win." Steve shook his head. "No." Maria looked confused. Steve smiled. "Both families get the prize." The audience erupted. Daniel shook his head. Steve pointed at him. "Don't argue with me." Daniel laughed through tears. Lily smiled. For the first time that day, Steve laughed too. Then he looked at the scoreboard. "No final round." The producer stared. Steve repeated, "No final round." He turned toward Lily. "Today, everybody wins." Lily smiled. Steve held out his hand. Lily took it. He walked her back to her father. Then he put Lily's hand in Daniel's. "Take care of each other." Daniel nodded. Steve stepped away. Then he turned around. "One more thing." Daniel looked up. Steve pointed at Lily. "Keep talking about your mom." Lily nodded. Okay, tell people what she loved. Lily thought for a moment. She loved pancakes. Steve laughed. Then you better eat pancakes. Lily smiled. She made them every Sunday. Steve nodded. Then Sunday is pancake day. Lily smiled wider. The audience applauded. Steve turned away. He pressed his hand against his face. He was crying again. A crew member behind the camera wiped away tears. The studio fell completely silent. The game had lasted less than an hour. But nobody remembered the scores. Nobody remembered the survey answers. They remembered a 6-year-old girl. A folded memory. And 4 words that broke through the silence of grief. 3 weeks later, the episode aired. The clip of Lily whispering to Steve reached 7 million views in its first 24 hours. Within 10 days, it passed 38 million. Then people began posting their own stories. Mothers, fathers, children, widows, widowers. The hashtag Daddy Misses Mommy Too began trending. Thousands of people shared photographs of people they had lost. 3 months later, Daniel and Lily began grief counseling. Lily drew pictures of Emma. Daniel stopped hiding his tears. When Lily asked about her mother, he answered. When she said she missed her, he said he missed her too. No more I'm fine, no more pretending. 6 months later, they started Sunday pancakes again. Lily stood on a chair beside her father. She mixed the batter. Daniel cooked. They burned the first batch. Lily laughed. Mommy made them better. Daniel smiled. She did. A year after the taping, Lily's school held a family day. Daniel brought a photograph of Emma. Lily stood beside it. She told her class, "This is my mommy. She liked pancakes. She laughed a lot. And Daddy still misses her." Daniel stood at the back of the room. He cried. But this time he didn't hide. 2 years later, Daniel created a small community program called Sunday Pancakes, helping children who had lost parents create traditions that keep memories alive. The program started with 14 families. By its 3rd year, it had helped more than 600 children create memory boxes, family traditions, and support connections. Its motto came from Lily's 4 words, "Daddy misses Mommy too." 5 years after the Family Feud taping, Lily was 11. She had grown taller. Her pink dress was long gone. Her favorite color had changed from pink to purple, but she still made pancakes on Sundays. One morning, her father found her looking at an old photograph. "What are you doing?" "Missing Mom." Daniel sat beside her. "Me too." Lily smiled. Then she said, "It's okay." Daniel nodded. "It is." Later that year, Steve received a package. Inside was a photograph. Lily was standing beside a stack of pancakes. On the back, she had written, "Mr. Steve, Daddy still misses Mommy, but now we talk about her." Steve read it. Then he smiled. He called Daniel. Daniel answered. Steve asked, "How's my girl?" Daniel laughed. "She'd tell you she's not a little girl anymore." Steve laughed. "Put her on." Lily came to the phone. "Hi, Mr. Steve," Steve said. "You still making pancakes?" "Yes, good." There was a pause. Then Steve said, "Your mama would be proud." Lily was quiet. Then she answered, "I think so too." Today, the most important part of that Family Feud episode isn't the moment Steve cried. It isn't the money. It isn't the applause. It isn't even the decision to stop the game. It's the 4 words, "Daddy misses Mommy too." 4 words that gave a grieving father permission to stop pretending. 4 words that told a little girl she wasn't alone. 4 words that turned grief from something hidden into something the family could finally talk about. Because children don't need adults to pretend that loss doesn't hurt. They need adults who are brave enough to say, "Yes, it hurts me too." And sometimes, the smallest voice in the room is the one that finally gives everyone permission to tell the truth. If this story about Lily's 4 words touched your heart, make sure to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. Share this video with someone who has lost a loved one and needs to know that it's okay to keep saying their name. Have you ever had a child say something that completely changed the way you saw grief? Tell us your story in the comments. And don't forget to ring that notification bell for more stories that remind us that love doesn't disappear just because someone is gone.